All right. Welcome, everyone. Excited to have everyone here for our second session in the AI track. Today, we're excited to hear from the team at Cadre, a company working at the intersection of AI and mental health, using technology thoughtfully to improve access, outcomes, and the overall care experience. Joining us are four leaders who bring together vision, technology, product strategy, and growth. First, we have Luke, who's the founder and CEO of Cadre, who leads the company's mission and long-term vision for how AI can responsibly support mental health care. Michael, who's Chief Technology and AI Officer, who oversees Cadre's AI strategy and the development of the technologies powering the platform. Shannon, the Chief Product Officer, responsible for translating clinical needs and user insights into meaningful, scalable products. And Emily, Vice President of Growth, who focuses on expanding Cadre's reach and ensuring these innovations make a real-world impact. Together, they'll be sharing how Cadre is approaching AI and mental health, balancing innovation, ethics, and patient-centered care. Please join me in welcoming the Cadre team.
Hi, everyone. I will call out, we did not coordinate this effort of Luke and the backup dancers, but we're pretty proud of it. So anyway, my name is Emily Hanson. It's great to be with you all. I got to jump into a couple other sessions and learn from this audience throughout the day too. And as I was introduced, Emily Hanson, I'm our VP of Growth at Cadre, and excited to be up here with our leadership team. Today, we're going to talk about the golden thread in AI and mental health. And we picked that title really on purpose. And for those of you that maybe aren't familiar, golden thread in behavioral health is really a concept or a best in class concept that speaks to the idea that quality care is really end to end, right? That the assessment and diagnostic in mental health care and behavioral health care rolls into a treatment path. Those interventions roll up into delivering real care and real outcomes. And that's really the difference between what care is and a care path is. And what we wanted to do today was really connect that to the golden thread in technology, which you'll hear about from Mike and the team. But what we're building at Cadre is really the golden thread that connects those two things. Our stance, I think, is pretty simple, and you'll hear from Luke and the rest of the founding team of we deeply care about mental health, and we really, really care about people. And our stance overall is that AI and technology allow us to do that in the best way possible and maintain the highest quality of care while also maintaining the golden thread through technology. And so I'm excited to talk to you about that today. I'll introduce myself a little bit. We always share a personal story at Cadre. This is a really personal effort for all of us. So outside of Emily Hanson, I'm Emily8770. I was a Cadre user before I was on the Cadre leadership team, and Cadre as a user totally changed my life. A couple of years ago, I became a single parent overnight. I was isolated and frozen in my house, tackling major legal systems and major challenges that I honestly never thought I could get to that point. And I always like to joke that what brought me back to life was waking up with JC Leopold every morning, who is one of our key voices at Cadre. And I say that sort of cheeky and joking, but it really did change my life. I woke up every single day and it helped me get in routine. I would turn on Cadre and I would hear from JC every single morning at 7:30 at my son. I would have him sitting in the living room. I would turn on Cadre and make a cup of coffee. And it was the real connection brought to me through a screen during a time when I couldn't get out of my house. And so that's what Cadre is to me. And I think I've been really inspired by the team, who I'm excited to introduce now. So I'm going to skip over Luke and actually pass it to Shannon to introduce herself.
I have to press this. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Shannon. I am the Chief Product Officer at Cadre. I have been a part of this organization for over 2 years now. My story, we always start with our story, like Emily said. I'm a person who lives with CPTSD, anxiety, and I'm a parent of a child with autism. I have 2 kids. So the acronyms we have in our house are many. We have anxiety, we have ADHD, we have all the things. And so my story is that as I navigated the healthcare system on behalf of myself and my children, it was really challenging. My background professionally is I've been in healthcare communications on the agency side, on the media side, so really understand, honestly, social platforms, the things we're building, worked on behalf of healthcare providers, insurers, people who were trying to make healthcare accessible, and got super frustrated as I'd listen to them be like, we're going to build solutions, that are human first and human centered. And then as the person who was using them, I was like, this is not happening. So my role at Cadre is to build a tool for people to connect that is actually about humans. And as we're going to talk about today, the beautiful thing about AI, and I'm not a tech person, as I just told you by background. Thank God for Mike and the tech team, because they know things that I don't. I did go to grad school, but I did not get an MBA because I could not do the math, which is very important when it comes to AI. But I do know how to be human. And so our ethos, which Luke will talk about, is using AI to deliver humanity in the right places. He's going to say it better than I am. But where can we deliver humans in the moments, and then use AI to ensure that everything else operationally is the best that it can be. So I'm glad you guys are here. And now I'm going to pass, I think, to Luke. Mike, Luke? Mike.
Me first and then I go. Hi, I'm Mike. I'm the Chief AI Officer and CTO for Cadre. As Shannon mentioned, I run the tech. I'm a new not a new convert, because I've had a relationship with Cadre for a while, for years, through Shannon. Many of you know the organization known as Beta. I'm the chairman of the board, and through the Beta activities, I connected with Shannon, which connected me to Luke, and now I'm here with Cadre. My personal story with Cadre is I'm a cancer survivor. This is 1 year clear of cancer, so celebrating that. But going through that journey was more mentally challenging than actually the physical challenges. And so that gave me a whole new appreciation for mental health as a whole, and is a big motivator for why I moved into Cadre, because I connected very, very, very strongly, obviously, with the mission. And so it has personal importance for me in that regard. The challenge for me as the Chief AI Officer, as Shannon alluded to, is to leverage AI in the most humanistic way possible. Luke likes to say we need to be 51% human, right? So that has a specific application in the tech realm, and that's actually a very, very, very good challenge for me to tackle, given the state of tech these days with the dominance of artificial intelligence. But I'm up for it. I'm all in for the mission for Cadre, and very excited to speak to you all here today.
And then, hi everybody, my name is Luke Wendland. If you don't mind, I'm just going to stand. I think it's easier for me. But who here, just real quick, I've been in the behavioral health space for 15 years. I've exited 2 organizations previously, and this is my 3rd. I get the opportunity to work with some of the most amazing individuals here. We call ourselves the Band of Misfits, because we all have stuff, right? And what I mean by stuff is we're all human. So my question is, who here has had to navigate anything in the behavioral space, from anxiety, therapy, autism, anything, addiction? Raise your hand if you for yourself, a family member, anybody. If somebody would be so vulnerable and share, how easy was that for you? You can just thumbs down too, okay? But if anybody here can just kind of just briefly in 30 seconds or less, just talk about that experience of trying to find the help for the person, yourself, a loved one, whatever that was like. Thank you for volunteering. Nice. It is a nightmare. Okay. It's a nightmare. And I was that 15 years ago, right? So when you talk about our stories, I have generalized anxiety disorder. I have panic attacks. I cannot have coffee for I get way too anxious. But there's a lot of things that, get me going, and from an anxiety perspective or otherwise. But then there's also my professional side of also what gets me going. And so when you have your pain and your purpose, and you kind of churn it into good that you want to promote into the world, you create things like Cadre, and you find and show up with individuals like this. So we have an amazing team. Like I said, I get to stand on the shoulders of these amazing giants. Our team is now 13 people. So we started with this idea and this concept of like, could we have 100 individuals utilize our philosophy that we believe, if anybody here probably has social media, that we believe we could utilize social media for good. And we could have our band of what we would call influencers turn into contributors, which we'll be talking about here shortly. But this is our amazing team. There's 3 individuals that were left out of here that are on the tech side of things as we continue to grow. But if you'd be so kind to go to the next slide.
Sorry.
So real quick, I'm just going to kind of explain this slide in a diagram for you all, okay? So back to your Lyra experience, right? So what ends up happening is usually somebody has something going on in their life, and healthcare today looks like this, right? Just like a triangle like this, where you land on the top and you really don't know why the hell you're there, but you're showing up to try to figure out if the answers are right for you, right? So in the case of therapy, it's like, I don't feel right. Maybe I'm a little anxious, I'm nervous, I have something going on at home, I'm struggling at work, whatever that might be going on with you, and someone says, try therapy, right? So you're going to land on the top of the triangle, and then you're going to show up there, and you'll be like, is this even the spot for me? And then before you know it, you go to like one therapist, and then you try another one. And then before you know it, they're going to say, well, actually, you have to start over here, and then you can enter go into over here. Oh, and by the way, you should probably talk to a coach, and maybe the peer would even be better for you. And all those things are happening. Meanwhile, you're still on the top of that triangle going, oh my gosh, and it's expensive. It's expensive for the system. It's expensive for Lyra. It's expensive for Best Buy. And it's just this rotating circle that we want to try to like flip it upside down. Okay. So in our thoughts, the triangle of healthcare is like this in behavioral health. We want to flip it upside down. So by flipping it upside down, we view the capability and the capacity to be able to say, let's speak from the masses and at scale first. Right? Let's speak to the masses and at scale. So currently we're shy of 10,000 users on the platform, which is awesome for us as a small Minnesota-based tech organization that is all bootstrapped off our own cash, that we believe, like, let's start by speaking at scale. Let's go from speaking at scale of live streams, pre-recorded content, just like influencers do, and then build communities. And then through communities, before you know it, like somebody might say, you know, I learned a lot from Dr. Charisse, and maybe therapy's right for me, and I'm a part of that community, and I send some messages in. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to ask for more help. Now you're informed. Now you're educated. You know why you're showing up. And one of those influencers that's on Cadre could actually deliver care for you as well. So you know Sally, you know John, you know Tom, whoever that might be, or Dr. So-and-so. So that's our vantage of what we believe is it's fundamentally different. Nobody on the planet, to my knowledge yet, is doing that yet. Is creating a social media platform and then driving behavioral health change through it, which I fundamentally believe can change the world. I've started and built brick and mortar businesses in the space in behavioral health. They're amazing and they're phenomenal, but they're designed for acute level care, right? So there's 90% of the world sits in non-acute care, right? Where it's like, I need something, but how much do I need? When do I need it? Why do I need it? And the answers really aren't there for you. You have to like figure them out together, right? And so what we want to do is just bridge the gap that everybody can show up, be themselves, and say like, man, this feels good to be here. This feels good. Like there's people like me that are struggling with this. Or, you know, that 4th glass of wine that I'm having on Tuesday nights, like, do I have something going on? It's affecting my work performance. I'm not showing up maybe on Fridays, all those things, right? So just real life experiences involved in that. So that's the dynamic of, we do not start any meeting ever at Cadre. It could be sales, it could be a presentation, it could be anything without going over our values. We live them. We live them all the time. You hear about our stories. Like this is who we are. This is what we talk about. This is how we show up all the time. Sometimes it's maybe even overwhelming at times for people because we're so authentically ourselves. And like, if there's any one thing that I hope you could get from this today, it's like that. How can you just be you? Like, how could you actually be yourself tomorrow and show up how you want to show up, wear what you want to wear, you know, do what you want to do and say what you want to say within reason, you know, to be the person that you want to be, right? And so why we are here our mission, our vision. But what I just want to quickly just note, and Shannon's going to love me for this, is core values, Cadre, C-A-D-R-E. So there's probably one of these that, may be a value of yours too. But my favorite one is we live in the arena. We live there every day. And it's stuff that we do as people, as teammates. And we really press each other on that. We really don't have the meeting after the meeting. Like we really don't. And sometimes that can, cause friction and strife and whatever, but we're never going to do that. You're never going to finish a meeting at Cadre and say, did you hear what Shannon said about product? No, we'll never do that. We're going to talk about it there. The four of us will do it then and there. And that's who we are. And that's what we're going to in person. No, but I think it's, we all talk about it all the time. This is the organization that we've all dreamed to build together and be a part of. And we want to be that way all the time. So next slide. If you'd be so kind. So again, it's that in-between population. I already talked about this. It's you're not necessarily in a crisis, but you're struggling. You don't know if you do have an alcohol problem because odds are you'd probably already not have a job and you'd have a lot of things going on, or you could be a functional alcoholic or something like that. I'm using very polarizing things so you understand the levels that I'm talking about, but it also could be something subtle. My wife and I are struggling in communication and it's causing a lot of problems, right? So as a married 13 with 4 children, I get that, right? And so what do I do on Wednesday mornings? I listen to Dr. Sharice. And Dr. Sharice is amazing. Like how you listen to JC in the mornings, Dr. Sharice is my person who helps me with relationships and being the best husband I can be for my kids and my wife. Because I'm not perfect and I never will be. And some of those things that you don't even know you do, you're like, oh gosh, all right, that's not great. But at any rate, so on to the next one here, Mikey. And then the solution. And then this is all you, Shannon, going forward. Oh, sorry. This is all you going forward.
Okay, awesome.
Thank you.
I'm going to stand too. I'll follow Luke's lead. I will say we all got here because of Luke. And I think in the context of architecture or data or building technology, ultimately, again, we fundamentally believe that it takes people who understand what you're building to build the thing that is intended. We believe that in healthcare. We believe that in technology. And again, we really try to be that through line of here's how we leverage AI to actually create the best human possible experience, leverage technology to create the highest impact human experience and drive human outcomes. So I'll talk a little bit about the solution. So as Luke said, we're a social platform. I come from the commercial side. So when I think about what do we do from a commercial side, right? We increase capture, we increase engagement, and we increase adherence, right? So we're doing things like avoiding, right? Landing on the top of that healthcare pyramid. But we're also doing things like just supporting people on their existing path. We handle every level of acuity, from crisis to just what we think is just maintaining a great life and getting to be yourself in that life. The Cadre Sphere model includes a couple different things. Fundamentally, we operate with the Cadre way. And so as somebody who's worked in this space for a long time, looked at a lot of different solutions. My background's actually in venture capital. So I did diligence on Cadre actually. And along with other solutions, right? One of the biggest challenges, okay, you say peers, right? Vetted peers. Well, who is that? How is it anybody's going on there and giving advice, and how do you really monitor that? And you look at other social media platforms, right? Just in the world, we have the Cadre way. Dr. Sharice is actually our head clinical officer. And although we don't consider ourselves strictly clinical, right? We do have a framework that helps us reconcile how to speak to your own lived experience within a context that's safe and open and accessible to all. What that looks like in terms of what you'll experience in the app is content, community, peer coaches, and the connector. So we'll get into that in a minute if you won't mind going to the next slide. Awesome. So first we'll go to content. So vetted peers, coaches, and licensed professionals, live and recorded content. So again, I talked about this. I loved being able to rebuild my life by going on at a set time every single day and waking up with JC. We have learned and hear from people using the platform and hear for ourselves that it's really amazing to use technology and know the person that's on the other side is real. They're not an AI, whatever. You don't have to worry about it. They're in their messy house talking to you about your messy house, and you feel like that real connection. We also know that it's great in the middle of the night to wake up and have that same experience. So we have, correct me, 52,000 minutes. 55 looks, it's amazing. Yeah, and right, like more isn't necessarily always better, but what we do know is that's organized in a way that people can really access that at any time, what they need with the creators that they love, discover new creators, and we're constantly building on how to think through personalization so that is directed to people at the right time and they can always find it. Go to the next slide. Awesome. Community. And one of the things on the last slide, but and definitely serves as community, is just that this is relatable. We talk a lot about our lived experience, but again, when we think about technology, even personalization, right? Like we don't pretend to know how to do everything to create the best personalized experience for every single person on the platform. What we do know is that we do our best to create the container that allows us to hear from our community, learn from the communities that we serve, and actually lean on those leaders, those voices to tell us what that community needs. I feel like I have Shannon in my ear, in my mind, constantly saying, we lean on our community to tell us what we need. We don't know what they need. I know what certain people in my community need because I'm in those communities. I have no idea what it's like to be a cancer survivor, right? Mike does. And so we look to those people in every single way, shape, and form. And, you think about things like network adequacy. That's how we sort of think about this at Cadre. If you're familiar with that term, network adequacy is trying to match our experience and creators on the platform to the populations that we serve. And then coaching. Coaching is something I'm personally falling in love with at Cadre. So not all of our key voices or content contributors are coaches, but many of them are. Again, coaches fall within that Cadre Way model. So some of them are clinicians like Dr. Sharice, others are not, but they fall within our own personal Cadre Way training, but they have other professional vetting, go through a pretty significant vetting process where we trust and believe that they can demonstrate real outcomes. Coaching is part of our platform. And again, it helps us address different acuity levels. It helps us meet people where they are, right? By allowing them to come into content, right? People can come in anonymously. They can interact in live streams. They can go through content libraries. They can book with a coach. They can book with a coach generally, or really focus on specific topics that they want to work on. And then the last piece, you guys hopefully will get a kick out of this, but we've just personified the Cadre connector. So the connector to me is really the sweet special sauce capability of Cadre. It's bottling up what you just heard from Luke, that level of passion, that level of commitment. Like Luke will take your call at any time. Luke and Shannon were huge supporters with the Annunciation tragedy locally. And I got to witness firsthand what that actually looks like in supporting not just our community, but people in crisis, right? And that to me is just what we want to embody in the platform, right? And so that's a little Luke at the bottom of that pyramid. We think it's really cool. And the connector is both a person and a capability. So again, back to the conversation we're having today about technology and architecture, we think about building that out love, out care, go the extra mile that isn't necessarily in line with billable hours. And how can we build that in Cadre at a scalable way? And how can you actually talk to a real person? Like we have real numbers, real text lines, and we also have technology capabilities to augment that where it makes sense. And I think that wraps my portion here, but we'll go to the next slide. I'll pass it to you, Mike. Thanks. Oh, you've got a mic.
Me first. So you heard from Luke about the culture, all of us about the culture, our personal stories, and the importance of bringing humanity into the whole equation, right? So as I mentioned in the beginning, the key challenge for me as the chief AI officer is to maintain that culture within the company, but also within the expression of the product, which for a tech company is the platform. Right, and for the AI, how you do that, right? It's fine to talk about the strategy being 51% human, right? And that's important, but it only counts if you can express it. And the way that it's expressed in any tech company is through the architecture, of course, which is not a mystery to anybody here in this room, since it is an architecture conference. So that's my key challenge. And of course, I approached it as I was taught and trained and experienced in my past roles as an enterprise architect. It's through, you start first with the strategy and making that connection to the technology. And it's ironic that this is the first time I'm doing this presentation in this manner with my peers. And it's a business architecture conference. So of course I started with the business architecture. I started to understand, okay, what is Cadre really good at, right? So created, just like any architect, started with those business capabilities, identified them, took in information about the strategy, about the company, about the tech, about the people, the capabilities. And I came up with I start here with the golden thread because that's the topic of the presentation. And this is, I think a classic approach to getting to how you get value out of the capabilities. But the next slide actually shows what those capabilities look like, right? They formed the foundation of my analysis and the building blocks of the AI strategy that started to surface as I started with this endeavor. I followed this very same approach when I was at Optum, serving as the chief advisor for the CTO of Optum Health, when they were rolling out their new AI strategy within Optum AI through that conversion. The very same methodology that I followed when I was at Boston Scientific during the Gen AI boom in 2023, when my CIO came and said, "I need a framework. I need a perspective because I don't have one. You got to come up with it because I'm getting questions directly from the board of directors, and you're the only architect with any kind of enterprise AI experience on the board. Nobody knows generative AI. Nobody wants to touch it." And I'm like, okay, so here we go, right? So I've been through this circus a couple of times, but different environment now. Luckily, a great leadership crew, great culture, a very unique challenge with a great mission, and that's what really appealed to me. So this is what I came up with: a pretty classic approach to a capability map. Very simple because Cadre is not a Fortune 500 company, but it gets to the core capabilities, and that's what's important. Shannon's going to speak to how that breaks down to the level 2s, right? Which is important because we want to get to an execution level strategy, right? The baseline level 1 capabilities are only good for like high level strategy discussion, but to really get the down and dirty and to execute the strategy to make it executable, you have to get down to the level 2s, and ideally to the level 3s, because that's when you can start your very, very cool mapping to your operational capabilities, your people, your tech, of course, which is my principal responsibility, but not my only responsibility, right? Because as any architect, and any business architect in particular, you got to be accountable to the people. You got to understand the tech. You got to understand the data. You got to understand the operations of the whole thing, right? And that's kind of classic business architecture. So let me go back to the previous slide, because I want to explain how I got to the golden thread. Started with the outcomes, the strategic outcomes for Cadre. Big goals for us. Anybody here heard of EOS? It's new to me, actually. First time operating an EOS system. So learning from me. Oh, good. So a couple of people. That's more than I expected, Luke. So he's like, we're going to run EOS here. I'm like, what's that? So like, okay. So anyway, it was great. So, but started with in EOS, they have these things called rocks. And so that's what I started with. And those are like equivalent to what are the business outcomes that we need to achieve, right? So I started looking at understanding those rocks. The more I understand those rocks, I was able to tie them to specific value streams that Cadre operates with, right? So very classic business architecture. And once I understood the value streams, figure out, okay, these are core capabilities, and that's enabled me to create what's in the second slide, the business architecture. Once I understood what those capabilities are, I had my building blocks, and I'm like, okay, I know I need to uplift and modernize this platform. We got Fortune 500 level enterprise clients and customers. I understand that side of the house because I came from it, right? And that, it was an easy exercise for me to figure out, okay, here's the tech that I need to do the scaling. Because once I understood those building block capabilities, it was very, very easy for me. So I'll turn it over to Shannon. She'll kind of talk about in detail there are 3 core capabilities, and she's going to talk about that.
So, all right, I feel like I need to stand now just because everyone else did. Okay. All right, so I'm just going to start talking about each one. So you saw the model, the upside down triangle that we talked about, and really that's what this is going through each of those levels. When Emily was walking through each of them, I think one of the things that we think about, or one of the words that I use, I'm a former English major, so one of the words I'm big on words, is intervention, which translates to cost savings, which translates to ROI. And so ultimately, and I also am from a sales background, so I know it has to get signed off by the CFO. I know it has to save money. No one's going to pay for it unless it gives you a return. So as we think about each of these buckets and think about that upside down triangle, and we think about this first one. So just keep that in mind, I think, as we go through each of these. So this first one is content. And so for me, I'm just going to focus on two things and how that the AI element is applied here to help us get to that. So the first one is operational, which is important and awesome. I spoke a little bit about how I come from a background in media marketing, et cetera, and I will age myself and say I was in marketing when websites were newly introduced and people were like, do I need a website? And then I was there when social media was introduced and like, do we need this? So I've seen the evolution of all of the ways in which we create and edit content. Now we are able to, with really simple basic AI tools that you all probably use, a contributor at Cadre can build one piece of content, 2 minutes long. We can quickly put it through an AI tool and it's immediately cut into 10 pieces, which can then be created into potentially a series. So all of that can happen for us, and that's incredibly valuable. What's actually really, really exciting about this, and something that Davis, our new lead platform architect came to us with, is when you are on Netflix or you are on Amazon Prime or you are on any of those, and you have a Spotify and you have your favorite songs, and it will say, like, maybe yours is like, I love rainy afternoon coffee music, right? Or whatever that is. And it's like this super specific, or like my movies come up and it's like, I love action-packed, X, and it's super specific to mood, to, it's hyper-focused, hyper-personalized to me. Well, so what we can do now with AI and is start to go in, and I'm not going to get all these words right, so please just give me that. It's meta tagging, and so it's going in with our video. We have 57, how many minutes of video, whatever you said, 57, whatever. We have all this video, and so now we can go in and we can start to tag our videos and subset them. But we can not only do it by emotion and feeling. So going back, and I'm going to tag into the Cadre Way, which Emily also referenced, and the Cadre Way was built by Dr. Charisse Johnson, who again is a clinician, trauma-informed clinician, and she has built a way in which Cadre operates that is connected to clinical outcomes that payers can then show ROI over time. So we go to her and we say, okay, in the Cadre Way, we know we are trying to create X, X, and X. And we know that if we do X, X, and X, that's going to connect to improvements in X over time. So we can now go into our video library and start to assign within a 2-minute video. And I know there's words for this, and do you know the words? If you don't know them, it's fine. There's specific words for each of these buckets, right? So there's this segment, and for example, this might be the feeling part. And then there's this segment of the video, which might be the action. So this might be the advice. And then the third section might be an in real-time activity that I can do to calm myself. So now we can not only tag them, we can segment them so that if someone wants to personalize their feed to, hey, I'm stressed out, I have anxiety, I'm panicking, but I have to go into a meeting and lead it. I want to fast forward, or I just aged myself, whatever that is. I want to get to the videos that all have the calming exercises. I could segment by that so that I don't have to search through all these things. I can immediately just say, I need to calm down. And I'm going to get a list of videos that I can in real time use in my office. So that's incredibly different than anything that exists today. So that's one example of how that could manifest here. Number 2 is community experience management. Okay, so these are communities. We talked about this a little bit. This is super differentiating. So Cadre today is oriented, I want to say we have 18 communities. We talk about this as lived experiences. So we have veterans, we have loneliness and relationships. So this isn't necessarily just, it's not a diagnosis per se, it's just something that people are living through. And I want to just for a second go back to that triangle and go back to what we're talking about with cost savings. And Luke talked about it in the beginning. A lot of us don't necessarily need a clinician all the time, right? Like as an autism mom and I'm stressed out, I don't necessarily need to talk to a therapist. I just want to talk to a peer. So if we are able to use these communities to be that intervention, to de-escalate, to save money, we go back to that top of the funnel, and then the 80%, we're going to save money. So we build those communities to, again, not necessarily be tied to a diagnosis. So it's not always going to be direct codes, clinical codes that come out of it, but it's going to be life and what we all live through. So with our communities right now, one of the things we're building that is tied into AI is a check-in, a daily check-in by community. So I'll use a veterans community, for example, where AI is able to help us. Every day there'll be a check-in. So when you enter that community, it's all veterans and it's public for everyone. It will say something relevant to that community. How are you feeling today? But something super specific to veterans. So as users then respond to that, that information then in real time will be obviously gathered and measured over time, not individualized, but in aggregate. But then also it will be fed to our content contributors in that community so that they then are able to say, okay, this community very specifically needs content that's hopeful. This community very specifically needs to hear real stories of X. We actually had a meeting today with our key contributors, and they talked about the veterans community, especially wanting anonymity. So, okay, some of the things they went through, they really might want anonymity. So then for us, okay, how are we able to do that? How are we able to serve that need? So it's really that feedback loop that AI is letting us get to in real time and then iterate. Peer coaching and support management. You spoke a little bit about this when you talk about the one-to-one matching. And I mean, I have a therapist. To be clear, we also love therapists. We have many therapists on our platform. We're really always looking for the right care at the right time. And so when we think about this, again, practically, AI is very useful for us operationally when it comes to scheduling and all the things that you can imagine. I think for us, again, this is as we go through and they build their content, it allows for people to start to get to know therapists, contributors, coaches, all the things before they enter into a relationship with them. So it allows us to say, here's who I am, here's what I'm like as a person, here's what it's going to be like to be engaged with me, so that I have the opportunity to experience that person before I invest my time and my money, before I'm waiting to understand if that's the right thing for me. This is also where a connector comes in and is really valuable, where you can talk with them to get those personalized recommendations by them. And that is a human piece, but that's one of the areas where we really want that to play in.
Awesome. That's it.
What's that?
Good.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, let's go into Q&A. I'm
Okay.
gonna end with our final slide. Kind of just summarizes like what are some of the identified opportunities with AI around the triangle that Shannon mentioned. We've been talking about. So and how I kind of shows what the output is for our analysis. Around the capabilities. We'll take your question. We'll take questions from the audience now, right? Yeah. So right now, I believe in staging, right? So I was brought in to scale up the platform, and the current platform the foundations need to be solid, particularly where the AI is right now to leverage the more advanced features. So, starting the features that we've implemented right now, we can get away with like standard RAG patterns. Nothing very. We want to move to the more agentic patterns. But first, we gotta build in enhance some of our capabilities around the data analytics. That's highly important that Shannon mentioned to our business. We have to provide those outcomes. But then, obviously, we've got a lot of content that we can harvest. So, but I don't need to get fancy with the architecture at this point to be able to enable those features. Now, as we progress down our path and start to get more into the community-related features that Shannon referenced, that we talked about with peer coaching, with the more advanced analytics and the more advanced engagement techniques, then we can move to the more advanced agentic patterns. In scaling, absolutely. We've got some pretty big customers, and to scale our business effectively, we're going to have to leverage the AI to do the scaling to get the ROI that you're talking about.
I can maybe speak to just a ROI example. So we're working with a regional payer specifically on a substance use pilot over the course of 1 year. So in a pilot setting, right, we're 2 to 3 times ROI, but over 3 years, it's a 9x cost saving that they have set for us. So just context.
with regards to which one I should probably move first or align.
So you get to choose. Okay, I mean, so when you onboard, there's you get this and you get. We don't want to necessarily in your national category, right? So our belief is to code make it out of position. I care about, but there are many ways to do well. We believe that know what's best for you, but we don't want to put anyone in your bucket or make themselves rely on the title. Yeah, and you can join or unjoin at any time. Once you are in, you are able personalized to you, and so it will prompt you over this might be great for you.
But I would love to have you use it. Like, is this that's the way you want?
Yes,
I mean, that's our
absolutely.
ultimate goal.
Yeah, because I think that's always the challenge is kind of like, how do you put language around feelings?
Mhm.
Yeah, so that was where it's like.
And it's very polarized.
Yeah.
And we're obsessed with the onboarding experience, so any feedback.
Oh.
Which is there is a method in the healthcare system that takes a person from study site to an actual diagnosis and then a treatment of that. With the reversal of the triangle, is there a risk and how do you mitigate the risk by making sure that the wrong diagnosis and
Bear with me. I hear you. I believe that the triangle, actually, what you're talking about, starts at the new bottom of the triangle I described, right? So like there's a natural golden thread of behavioral health and mental health services. Starts with a diagnosis. You have to have a diagnosis to receive care. From receiving care, you have an opportunity to meet with the therapist. The therapist has to document everything and needs to be compliant so you can be billed, right? So that's the process of the thread. That's not going to change. It hasn't changed in 60 years, and it's certainly not going to change tomorrow or 5 years from now, right? But I believe like we can fundamentally change everything before that. Does that make sense?
in things and hence my question.
Yeah.
I believe in what you said. It's just that I don't know if somebody, so let's say I'm panic attack, right?
Yep.
I don't know I have panic attack, but the way I'm searching will lead me to videos that are talking about panic attack.
Totally. And the
how can that
alternative,
be like,
hear you, and I guess like the fork in the road is either free through Google, right? ChatGPT, you name it, right? Free to your left or off to the right is very, very expensive. And my thought is like we have to be the middle. Like we have to be the middle. Like the left-hand side is not going to do it for you, and the right-hand side is not going to do it for you. But maybe the middle could. You know, and that smoke area is an area where you can know enough to be dangerous about yourself. Not saying it's perfect, but it's better than what exists,
And
which
that's
is nothing.
And that's what we see presented here as a professionals, but again, I just want to say two things about that. I think one is you might see enough and then reach out to the connector. And again, we learned about the connector role from our real life. How the connector is actually. The other thing I want to say is from a workflow perspective, as Emily's talking about, we actually are working hand in hand with the behavioral health case managers with the pair. And so there is a direct connection so that should there need to be a pass through, it's immediately passed to them. They can pass it to us. So,
like a trend?
no, I think it's a great question.
Well, that's a great question.
Phenomenal question.
Thank you.
they, and I went through our thing, so sorry about that. But, what about when they don't have the app? What about when, they actually need their provider to be monitoring their state of mind every day or something? I mean, are you doing anything in that kind of space because people, or to have that community that surrounds them monitoring their state of mind, so they can watch, try and that? Yeah, I'm just curious. No, that you work in it, sorry.
I think it's a great question. I think there's a couple of questions in that. So number one, definitely, well, we are not in any way monitoring people on a one-to-one basis. However, that being said, we are using AI tools to monitor the conversation in general for red flags, and part of the Cadre way is, this is a red flag, now it needs to flag and.
And a trigger. Correct. So you're not monitoring.
Correct. You're
Informing the community.
absolutely. I mean, the second question, the other thing, maybe the other provider, like, who don't see that overall, who don't all have, right? And also say that part of it, like, even if I have insurance, who can get a provider, I would wait till they're selling that. Sure. Yeah. So
and also just look around this room, right? Like any one of us today probably be able to talk about through like one way or another connecting with somebody here, you name it. Everybody in this room has probably resources, probably has the money, probably has the capital, probably has the capability. That's awesome, and I love that for you all. But there's a lot of hundreds of millions of people in the United States that's done. And to be frank, that's who I'm fighting. Right? Like that's why I'm giving everything I got and everything I can possibly give. Because the $14 employee, the $20 employee, like they never had it. Period. Right? Like in the stuff that they do have, like you had mentioned Lyra available, etc. My gut is you probably have 6 and 6. 6 therapeutic interventions and 6 coaching sessions, right? But it's at a scale, right? Once you get to a scale, then you have availability of that. Everybody else does. Right? And so those are the people, and if we can blanket coverage, back to what you just said, now you have something. Something is better than nothing in serving and helping support mental health. And then kudos to all the work you're doing in your nonprofit. Thank you.
As I said earlier, value supersedes.
Yeah.
But anyway, the question around what about, I mean, we know that sometimes people who are in it, I mean, it's health emergency, they're not going to go to the app, right? Yeah. They need to know, they need someone knowing that for them. You know, they're monitoring. But is there, like when you're looking at these trends, you're looking at planets, you're looking at whatever, people don't know who to ask. Even in
I can speak to that.
people don't know enough to ask.
I'll speak to even my own experience. So so it's an amazing question. There's 2 things I want to talk about. One is trust. So we have a lot of people on Cadre, and a lot of our focus is, as Luke said and others said, like uninsured, underinsured, but also insured, right? So actually the pilot that we're doing is first with the commercial population. I think in this country right now, we have a lot of people that are fully insured that are living paycheck to paycheck or worse. That's one thing to think about. The second thing you talked about is trust or being in a state of crisis, right? So I came on to Cadre in a state of crisis, I will say. Like I'm a high functioning person, I was fully insured. I had to take leave from work. And we have Yep, and I had insurance, and the life events that I was experiencing were not actually clinical ones. So this is actually a huge differentiator of what we're doing, and actually I think how we're leveraging AI, which is for any of you that are familiar with Medicaid, right? Like there's certain legislation where you can bill non-clinical services through Medicaid, right? And so when we change incentive models, we all then become aware of like the realities of what people need, right? if people can't get to the doctor, they may need transportation. If people aren't eating, right? Like you look at our home state and we have people that cannot put food on the table. And so what you're talking about is, right, like I think meeting basic needs and then also supporting people in a way that meets them where they are, right? No matter where they are. And so today I will speak to Cadre. We do have ways to escalate that, things on the back end that we can look at. The connector is the number one, right? So to escalate that to the appropriate level of care. And then we're constantly thinking about ways to improve technology to get ahead of that, to pick up on that sooner. And then what was the other thing I want to say? Oh, just trust. So for example, in domestic abuse communities, domestic violence communities, substance use disorder communities, things like that, veterans, there's a lot of users on Cadre that appreciate anonymity and are really disconnected from the systems that ultimately they need to rely on to improve, right? And so when we talk about things like suicide prevention, all these things, like trust is number one. So when we think about building through vetted peers, it's also creating trust, a bridge of trust back to systems. And so it's one, identifying, and two, then it's having people to bridge that gap and create that trust. So I love that question. Yeah.
Thank you all so much. Let's have a round of applause.
You know what? Can I tell you something? One of our customers who implemented Cadre was a guy who was like, did it because his boss hired, like bought us. And he was like, I don't need this. I'm not going to use this. And then he's like, I had to start watching it work. And ultimately he realized he had a drinking problem. And then he realized that he was depressed.
Yeah.
And he quit drinking. And he was like the biggest doubter of it all. And
Yeah,
he was
so
introduced to it. So it does work.
Yeah.
It's just how do they find it?
And I was just doing. So I have a private equity. Thank you.